we were getting calls all the time to say, how much have you spent on the pond? How much have you spent on the pond? I don't know. Let me find out. The solicitor told us.
Explain it for a moment for folks not from Coventry. When you talk about the pond, Johnson's pond?
Yes, Johnson's pond.
Give us just a little snapshot of why the Johnson's pond debate was nuclear, quite frankly, in Coventry.
So I believe it was in last year, 2020, the summer of 2024 or 2023. I can't remember which one because I wasn't on the council. They took the pond by eminent domain from Social Holdings LLC, and now the town owns another lake, another big pond. And there was a lot of controversy in the town because people was like, why are we doing this? At the time, the town council said we had to because if that dam would have failed, it would have been on the town for all the destruction that would have happened and stuff. So there's some controversy, but there's supposed to be public access to the pond. It's been almost a year now, I think, since the pond's been taken. There's no public access. People are asking questions. I don't have any answers. So before that March 11th meeting, Mr. LeBlanc, which I did not know about, sent an email to our finance director and said, hey, how much have we paid for the pond so far? Our finance director wrote back to him and said, I don't know because I don't see the invoices of our legal bills. And Jamie forwarded me that email and said, could you email him and see if you get the same answer? Which I did, and I got the same response. The finance director explained to us that the invoices from the solicitor come redacted, and they're remitted from President Hillary Lima, who only sees them, gives him the bill and says, here, pay it. And he has to pay it. The problem with this is our solicitor's budget back in 2024 was over budgeted by $352,000. So we started asking some questions.
Right.
I sent an email to the solicitor. I asked the finance director, I said, have you ever seen this before? And he's like, in my 30 years of public service, I've never seen it run like this. It always should go to the town manager, then the finance director, which is what our charter says you should do. All billing invoices go to our finance director to do unredacted stuff. So, I mean, to do audits and then pay the bills out. He gets to see them. So we were perplexed. We were like, this is not good. So I sent an email to the Solicitor Angel and said, going forward, I would like to see all your unredacted unredacted invoices that you send to the president and vice president that they look at. I would like to see them. He wrote back to me like a week later. At the next town council meeting, I will deal with this in executive session because I received a similar request by Jamie LeBlanc. Okay.
So, and let me ask for a second, what was redacted from the invoice that you weren't allowed to see?
So, what I got when I asked President Lima to send me something, it was a bill that it just said, court cost and like, labor or something like that, and it just had an amount next to it. It was like $17,000. It wasn't a breakdown of what I wanted. When I emailed them, I said I want to see your itemized legal bills of who you talk to, when you talk to them, the billable amount, the time and date, and the subject, so I can figure out who you're talking to, when you're talking to them. Because I was kind of wondering, is he billing people? Is he billing the town based on calls that he's making or calls receiving? Because he could call me, which he never did, but he could call, say, one of the council people and ask him a question or want to get their thoughts on something. Is he billing the town for that? If he's generating the call himself? We don't know because I can't see the invoices. I can't see the billing. So
just let me interject. At the coalition, we cover a lot of town events. I'm baffled because while the reports to you might have to be redacted in terms of public consideration, given the fact that they involve litigation or legal issues. And I love your impression on this, a town council is the board of directors, if you will, of a municipality. And I'm not aware of a single thing that you can't see. Hey, and we are the Coalition, loud and proud, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live, well, at an undisclosed location in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm here with, now former Coventry Town Councilman Scott Copley, and the political world got a little bit of a shock today. You have, and this is based on my, just a quick conversation offline with former Councilman Copley. You had the prospect of someone doing the right thing, if you will, not willing to put up, with a series of transgressions that we're going to talk about, and prizing, if you will, his relationship with the taxpayers of Coventry, and, quite frankly, as he sees it, his responsibilities to the people of Coventry. But I'm going to let him explain. Mr. Copley, thank you for joining us. It's late on a Wednesday. No, what is tonight? Tonight's a Monday night.
Monday.
In politics, you just sort of lose track of all time and space, but it's late on a Monday night. You've made a decision, and you executed it on Monday. Just let's start from the beginning. Well, first of all, what happened today?
So today, I went to the town hall with former Councilman Jamie LeBlanc, and we both handed out resignation letters today at around 11:45. We gave them to the clerk and the town manager in the office, and we kind of talked about what was going on and what happened and the reasons why we both left.
Were they surprised?
Yeah, I mean, town manager Dan Perillo was, kind of looking at Jamie when Jamie gave his resignation letter, and I said, well, here's mine too, and I handed it to him, and his eyes kind of lit up even more, like, you're leaving too? And I said, yep. After what just happened, I'm absolutely not going to tolerate it, and I'm out.
So let's start from the beginning. When were you initially elected as a town councilman?
Back in 2024 with that election, and we were sworn in December.
Okay. If you will, Coventry, the town of Coventry, the town council, I use the word ecumenical, non-ecumenical. There are ostensibly no Republicans and Democrats, but that really belies the reality of the situation. Is there a ideological split in the council, and do folks at least internally or externally identify as being part of a political party?
It is nonpartisan, but if you go to social media, there are people on there that would take pictures with people who are associated with the Democrat Party at the state level. So like Senator Lou Raptakis, Representative Pat Serpa was in a picture with Frank Brown, Elisa Capaldi, John Paul Verducci, and the guy who I ran against was Michael Grant, all together in a picture. So, they say they're all independent, but when you see a picture like that, are they really?
2-year or 4-year terms?
2 years. It was 4 years before, but there was a resolution passed in 2022, I believe, to change the 4-year term to a 2-year term, and to expand the council from 5 seats to 7. But instead of having 7 districts, they put 2 at-large seats. And I was on the Charter Review Committee in 2022. But that's not what we asked for. We wanted 7 districts, but the town council at the time changed the language for that election, and they put 2 at large instead of the 7 districts.
Which manner would you think have been more effective and maybe have prevented all of this from coming to play?
Well, I think if what we asked for, the solicitors showing us as unredacted invoices, I think that would have cleared up everything.
Well, let's step back a second, because I probably want to build a case here.
Okay.
In terms of the actual 4-year, 2-year term, in your opinion, and having, if you will, 7 districts as opposed to 2 at large and 5 districts, which one would have worked better for the taxpayer?
I believe 7 districts because if you put the 2 at large, outside forces can pour a lot of money in to those 2 at large seats. And if you looked at the 2 at large seats and the campaign financing report of the 2 individuals that were at large, was a substantial amount of money put into those races, which was over at least $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 they raised. And you looked at the local district seats, there wasn't a lot of money raised in those. I raised $500, because if you're going to run for a town-wide seat, you have to have a lot of money because you have to go from the edge of Connecticut out in western Coventry all the way to West Warwick. That's a huge territory. That's encompassing the 35,000 people in the town, where a district is only around 5,000 to 6,000. So there's a different dynamic to it. If you're and I feel with a district, it's split up evenly. You represent a district. Where you're at large, you represent everybody, but like Councilman Brown is in my district 5. So you have 2 sitting districts. You have 2 people on the council in District 5, which could tip the balance of something if it's not in favor of 5, or if 5 doesn't want something, you have 2 councilmen that could go there, right. Where another district could just have 1 person representing them. Right. So that kind of, and I think District 4 had 2. It had the Vice President Verducci is in 4, and the President Hillary Lima is in 4.
So what are the roots of today's controversy? I mean, it's a pretty dramatic moment for not just 1, but 2 city councilmen to resign literally midterm like this. Yeah. What happened? Where did it all begin? The seeds of this dissent.
So early on in February, we had our town council vote to have our rules, and during that vote, we had all agreed to, if you wanted something on the agenda, because before this happened in the past with town council in Coventry, you had to go to the vice president or president to put something on the agenda, and they would purposely leave it off. So people would want something on the agenda, it was purposely left off. So when I got elected, I wanted to have something on the agenda, which Foster has it, Westerly has it, the Ethics Commission have it, and quite frankly, we just saw the Fire Commission has this, where the last agenda item on the agenda states future agenda items, which would be, hey, we're at the end of the meeting, I want to talk about future agenda items. I'd like to talk about dog park next time, and it would go on the agenda in other towns.
Right.
I wanted that here in Coventry, but the solicitor said that was illegal. But I bought the rules and regulations from all these other towns, but he's saying it's illegal. So Councilman LeBlanc said, so how can we get something on the agenda then if we can't have this, if you're saying it's illegal? He said, well, if your town council rules pass tonight, you can just email the town clerk, Joanne, and she will put it on the agenda. So, okay, great. It's on the record. I think it was the February 25th meeting at the 2-hour and 44-minute mark. So that passed 7-0. And his contract came up too. That passed too. But me being new on the council, I started looking into his contract more and more. And we wanted to put some stuff on the agenda for the next meeting from March 11th about his contract that was, quite frankly, illegal and it goes against the home charter, but it was left off. So we got to that meeting, me and Jamie were like, this stuff's not on here, why not? Well, we got it on Friday. So that meeting, if people want to watch, that was the blowout meeting where the solicitor was saying, you have no right. I can back up just a little bit. We asked we were getting calls all the time to say, how much have you spent on the pond? How much have you spent on the pond? I don't know. Let me find out. The solicitor told us.
Explain it through a moment for folks not from Coventry. When you talk about the pond, Johnson's pond?
Yes, Johnson's pond.
Give us just a little snapshot of why the Johnson's pond debate was nuclear, quite frankly, in Coventry.
So I believe it was in last year, 2020, the summer of 2024 or 2023. I can't remember which one because I wasn't on the council. They took the pond by eminent domain from Social Holdings LLC, and now the town owns another lake, another big pond. And there was a lot of controversy in the town because people was like, why are we doing this? At the time, the town council said we had to because if that dam would have failed, it would have been on the town for all the destruction that would have happened and stuff. So there's some controversy, but there's supposed to be public access to the pond. It's been almost a year now, I think, since the pond's been taken. There's no public access. People are asking questions. I don't have any answers. So before that March 11th meeting, Mr. LeBlanc, which I did not know about, sent an email to our finance director and said, hey, how much have we paid for the pond so far? Our finance director wrote back to him and said, I don't know because I don't see the invoices of our legal bills. And Jamie forwarded me that email and said, could you email him and see if you get the same answer? Which I did, and I got the same response. The finance director explained to us that the invoices from the solicitor come redacted, and they're remitted from President Hillary Lima, who only sees them, gives him the bill and says, here, pay it. And he has to pay it. The problem with this is our solicitor's budget back in 2024 was over budgeted by $352,000. So we started asking some questions.
Right.
I sent an email to the solicitor. Oh, I asked the finance director, I said, have you ever seen this before? And he's like, in my 30 years of public service, I've never seen it run like this. It always should go to the town manager, then the finance director, which is what our charter says you should do. All billing invoices go to our finance director to do unredacted stuff. So, I mean, to do audits and then pay the bills out. He gets to see them. So we were perplexed. We were like, this is not good. So I sent an email to the Solicitor Angel and said, going forward, I would like to see all your unredacted invoices that you send to the president and vice president that they look at. I would like to see them. He wrote back to me like a week later. At the next town council meeting, I will deal with this in executive session because I received a similar request by Jamie LeBlanc. Okay?
So, and let me ask for a second, what was redacted from the invoice that you weren't allowed to see?
So, what I got when I asked President Lima to send me something, it was a bill that it just said, court cost and like, labor or something like that, and it just had an amount next to it. It was like $17,000. It wasn't a breakdown of what I wanted. When I emailed them, I said I want to see your itemized legal bills of who you talked to, when you talked to them, the billable amount, the time and date, and the subject, so I can figure out who you're talking to, when you're talking to them. Because I was kind of worried, wondering, is he billing people? Is he billing the town based on calls that he's making or calls receiving? Because he could say, he could call me, which he never did, but he could call, say, one of the council people and ask him a question or want to get their thoughts on something. Is he billing the town for that? If he's generating the call himself? We don't know because I can't see the invoices. I can't see the billing. So
just let me interject. At the coalition, we cover a lot of town events. I'm baffled because while the reports to you might have to be redacted in terms of public consideration, given the fact that they involve litigation or legal issues. And I love your impression on this. A town council is the board of directors, if you will, of a municipality, and I'm not aware of a single thing that you can't see.
Exactly. I am the client. The solicitor works for me. He doesn't just work for the vice president. He doesn't work for the president. He works for the entire body at our pleasure. I was an elected official. Therefore, my tax dollars, my District 5 tax dollars, are paying his money, his salary to represent us. So by him not showing his invoices is violating his contract, first of all, and violating the client-attorney privilege. I have a right to him. So what I did was I put an Apple request into West Warwick, and I talked to the clerk who said to me, here's the process that we do over here. Our solicitor sends in his unredacted invoices to the town manager. The town manager looks them over, then gives it to the finance director. The finance director looks them over, unredacted, and then itemizes and then he pays them out. So I was on the phone with the town clerk from West Warwick, and she said, "Oh, do you have a quick second to talk to somebody?" I said, "Sure." She goes, "Our solicitor just walked in." So I spoke with the Solicitor Williams from West Warwick, and he said, "Well, you have a question?" I was like, "Yeah." I asked him, "Am I allowed as a town council person to see the unredacted itemized bills of my solicitor?" He goes, "Absolutely." If the general public wanted to see it, it would be redacted because there's privy information on there, lawsuits, names, stuff like that. But as a town council person, you have every right to see it. He said, if anybody in West Warwick came to me that's on the city council and wanted to look at my invoices, I would show it to him in a second, not a problem. He's like, you have every right to see it. Okay. So that was all wound up, and then the March 11th meeting, that came to a head with Stephen Angel basically telling us we don't have a right to see his invoices. President Lima, telling us we're toxic. You can watch the video, it blew up. So Solicitor Angel was talking about Supreme Court cases and state law and all this stuff that we've asked to, well then, provide us this legislation or legal Supreme Court cases that say we're not privy to your invoices. Show it to us. He has yet to email me. He has yet to show anything. After the March 11th meeting, after our March 11th meeting, I was demanding him, are you going to show me your invoices or not? He would not answer my questions. He pointed to the town council president and vice president and said, ask them, basically. So I asked them, they wouldn't answer the question. So that meeting was not very pleasant, made us all look like fools, kind of, but me and Jamie were really pushing the issue. We want to know what's going on with these invoices. And by the solicitor giving them to the town council president, that violates our town charter, which is section 3.8, where it says the president is only supposed to do certain things, and administrative duties is not one of them. So she's violating the charter by that. So after March 11th, the solicitor cut off all communication with me and Jamie Lebeck. I would email him follow-up questions with legal questions I had about different things in the town. He would not answer anything. So I'm not being represented by my attorney. So on March 24th, I filed an investigation with the Judiciary Discipline Board in Kent County Court on Mr. Angel, and that was on the 24th. Now, our 25th meeting happened, and on the 20th, we asked for something to be put on the agenda again. I asked to address the violation of the charter by Town Council President Lima. I wanted conflict counsel assigned to us because of Stephen Angel's conflict of interest in the matter.
Right.
That was totally left off the agenda. Mr. LeBlanc made a beautiful packet, which I have here, which I kept, and it spelled out all the stuff that was going on, and we wanted answers. So that came out in the meeting, and I read my piece, he read his piece, and they said, does anybody have any questions? And I stopped and said, President Lima, did you willfully, knowingly violate the charter by doing these by reviewing these invoices and giving a redacted view to the finance director by doing administrative duties? The entire council, besides me and Jamie, sat silently and didn't say a word, would not answer, would not look at us, just looked straight ahead, like a lawyer told them not to answer anything. Don't incriminate yourself. Just look ahead and don't answer. So if you watch that the March 25th meeting, that's exactly what happened. So fast forward a week to April 1st. I get a call from the Coventry Police Department. And they're like, Mr. Copley, we're just calling to let you know we're investigating a complaint of verbal threats on someone. I said, okay. So I'm thinking, did someone make verbal threats against me and they're letting me know, or I don't know. So the officer said, no, they were supposedly made by you against President, he didn't say President, Hillary Lima. And I said, excuse me? He's like, yeah, would you like to make a statement? I'm like, no. I said, what was said? So he told me what was said. I said, I never said that. That wasn't part of the conversation. And he said it was part of a conversation that he was told by the Vice President, John Paul Verducci. So to circle back a little bit, before that 25th meeting, I emailed that to be put on the agenda. It was left off. So the 21st, which is a Friday, I texted the Vice President and said, Mr. Verducci, and said, can you give me a call? He called me. The conversation wasn't pleasant because I tore into him. I really ripped him a new one and said, listen, you know our town council rules. You know what we all voted for. Why is this not on the agenda? And it was, I can't please you, I can't please them, I'm stuck in the middle. I'm like, it's not about pleasing people, it's about doing what's right. You're Mr. Transparency, that's what you ran on. We voted you as vice president to stand up for the right thing and do the right thing, and you're not doing it. So, the phone call ended, and then the 24th, which was that Monday, I filed the paperwork in court against the solicitor. We had our meeting the 25th, and then the 1st, I get a phone call about this magical, supposedly, stuff that I said. And it's just a coincidence that the disciplinary board must have gotten in touch with Stephen Angel during the week between the 24th and April 1st, the week after. So he clearly knew that I filed something, and it's right here from the courthouse. Mm-hmm. He knew I did that. So in my estimation, I can't say on the record or not that he called the police and started this all, but I know that that the president, the Vice President Verducci, did give a statement stating that I made threatening accusations or whatever it was towards the president. What I found out is that the story was changed, and the police were not going to pursue this because it's a whole bunch of hearsay. And I'm telling you on camera, right to everyone, I never said anything threatening to anybody. Did I use foul language and tear into Verducci? Oh, absolutely I did, because I was heated because he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing as the vice president.
Well, and let me jump in for a second. So you've got the vice chair of the city council refusing to agendize a thoroughly legitimate agenda item, for lack of a better term, simply because he can't make people happy. Is there anything in the town charter that speaks to personal happiness as a requirement in order to agendize an issue?
There's really nothing that we saw in the, to be honest, when I looked in the charter, it doesn't really specify anything like that. That's why me and Jamie were really adamant about getting something on the record about itemize. I'll get about things on the agenda because things have been left off before. Where the presidents of the town council of Coventry in the past and the current one abuse their power, which they think they have, but they don't. The only other power they have is to run meetings, and that is it. And a declaration of emergency, they have the power to declare an state of emergency in the town if there's a natural disaster per the governor's orders.
Right.
That is it. Other than that, they have the same voting power, the same rights as we do. We're all the same. We are equal. But this administration of leadership that was voted on, which I voted for John Paul Verducci as vice president. I did not vote for Hillary Lima as president. I was the one no vote. Clearly think they could just do what they want to do and ignore everybody out there, including other town council members.
But an agenda, and I'm saying this not really for your betterment because you clearly understand it, but for listeners at home, the agenda and the ability to add to the agenda is the most fundamental tool of any city councilman or school committee man or woman, anywhere, anyplace, anytime. That is, the agenda is your working, think of that as your blank slate. You add to it. There are timing stipulations, there are disclosures that have to be made, notice issues, Open Meeting Act issues, all sorts of things surrounding it. But those are well known to the city council. It's part of the town charter. Think of the charter as like a bylaws. I mean, that the town charter, when you're a city council person, is effectively your gospel, your 10, 20, or 30 pages of commandments. But in the absence of an ability to add to an agenda, and what's stunning is how straightforward this is. This is, as they say, not rocket science. You effectively can't function as a city council person at any level.
No.
And again, I'm repeating myself a lot here because of this has been a wild week, by the way. We've got a situation in Narragansett where people who own a private corporation think that the owners of that corporation get to vote in two different. This place is nuts. Very often, back when we looked at things a little more humorously, when things weren't so dire, we called it "City Council's Gone Mad." But that's what's happening here. Forgive me, folks, because I'm repeating myself, but in the words of one of the great philosophers, holy shnikes. So continue.
So you're right. I'm not getting any legal representation. I have to consult with outside attorneys to ask them legal questions on a contract by the solicitor. I have to ask them legal questions of, does this violate this state law? Is there any Supreme Court rulings which Solicitor Angel is talking about? And I'm getting like, no, he's wrong on that. He's wrong on this. So it began to really, boil up where I'm not getting any legal representation by my solicitor, who the taxpayers are paying his legal bills.
Handsomely, I might add.
Very handsomely. His 1099s for 2023 and 2024 were $311,000 for 2023, and in 2024 his legal 1099 for his billing was $351,000. I can only imagine what 2025 is going to be for his just him. Never mind the whole shebang of.
Well, that's if you ever actually get to see it.
Yeah, if we ever got to see it. I mean, we can get the 1099 at the end of 2025, but that's what's that, 9 months away.
But your ability to manage these costs, which if unfettered, can quickly grow out of control. I'm not sure if you know what the billable rate is for your attorney, and there are other costs associated with it. And there are costs associated with operating a law firm. But do you know by chance what his billable rate is?
He gets a $9,000 flat fee, and then anything beyond the scope of what's in that flat fee is $225 an hour.
And that flat fee, $9,000. What time period does that cover?
At 1 month.
So his baseline is in excess of $100,000 a year.
Easy.
And then, the meter's running at every level.
So that's why it's very important to me and Jamie to really look at these invoices and figure out, for our taxpayers who put us there when we were elected, to figure out what is going on with the billing. and then we try to bring this up and expose it, you have the solicitor digging his heels in, the vice president digging his heels in, and Hillary Levi digging her heels in and saying no. It's asinine. It's crazy to think this is going on. So that all built up, and then with them trying to, with the timing of making accusations of me, of making threats, which again I never did, I had enough. And when Jamie found out about this, he said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. We're not getting anything on the agenda. We're not getting anything legally. We don't get any feedback from any other council members. Nobody talks, and it's just we're left out there in an island, and we don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know anything that's going to go on the agenda till the Friday night, and then I got to spend all weekend researching things and looking up things to make sure we can bring it to light and call out the garbage that's on it at a meeting, which we've been doing. But it's very time consuming, and to me, I'm not going to sit there and have people accuse me of making threats or slander with police departments and stuff. I said we're done. So Jamie said he was done. I made a promise to him, said when you're out, I'm out, and this was the final straw. So we both went today. We handed our resignation letters in, and we'll still continue to fight as taxpayers, but to sit there on a corrupt council that allows this to go on and then try to smear us publicly all the time, we're not going to take it anymore. We feel like, and I know there's a lot of people out there that back us up, that fight the good, fight the good fight, so to say. But we feel it's just like us two against the whole town of Coventry, because it's just craziness going on. The town council has a lot of issues and a lot of money issues coming up, but
as do most towns right now.
As do most towns, but our schools are falling down. We have dams we have to repair. We have roads to fix. We have pond litigation that is not done yet that could cost us millions of dollars. We don't know because nothing's been done in court. We don't have any public access to the pond, the Johnson's Pond, which could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's so many unknowns, but there's powers to be that want to have a municipal fire department and take on all that debt. And if that happens, you're gonna see your teachers are not gonna get any big raises. Your police officers who put their lives on the line every day not getting any raises. DPW guys who work really hard plowing and picking up the trash and everything else are not gonna get their big raises. They're not. It's gonna be minuscule because you're gonna take on another entity which is gonna suck all the money out of the town. We don't have it. We just don't. And the town council right now has their priorities so screwed up. It's just crazy. I don't know how it's even running, because you have a town council who doesn't want to do the right thing, And when you, like me, myself, and Jamie LeBlanc, we try to do the right thing, everything's thrown at you, from weaponizing the police to trying to make up, case law and supreme law by a solicitor who's trying to get you. So, I think we can do more good as taxpayers than being on the council.
Interestingly enough, Representative Jennifer Stewart, a Democrat from Pawtucket, has repeatedly introduced legislation which would force municipalities to be accountable on a high level for both the costs and the subjects of litigation costs on an ongoing basis. Another situation shows where this is called for. Cities like Pawtucket, now we're talking about potentially Coventry, are, going wild on legal bills. Cities simply can't afford. And there's no, by the way, if anyone is surprised by this, I'm not sure why, the cavalry isn't coming. There is no more money.
No.
Anywhere.
I mean, we have stuff that's going to be built in the center of New England. We have new condo developments and some other, stuff that's being built, but it's 5 to 10 years away of a building, and then revenue will come in. But in that 5 years, we don't really have anything. We got to deal with what we have, and we have we didn't have garbage picked up for a while because our garbage trucks were falling apart. They have new ones coming in right now, but we have a deficit of the school of $5.7 million. We have, a dam that feeds into Johnson's Pond that needs to be replaced. That could be $6 or $7 million.
After a while, it adds up.
It adds up. It adds up a lot. And under Johnson's Pond, there's old pipes from like the 1800s that are eventually going to need to be replaced. I've heard, anywhere from $10 to $15 million to replace those.
Right.
That's on the town. So, what are we going to do? We have to get our priorities straight. We have to pay off our bills first. We have to look at it's funny because I say this because President Lima, Hillary Lima, or Dictator Lima as I should call her, she wants to go through line by line of the school department, right? And rip it apart and say, what are they spending their money on? What are they doing? But when it comes to the legal invoices of the solicitor who she has a relationship with from Cranston, you can't go through them. You can't look at them. Nope.
Wow.
Really? It doesn't make tell me if that's not it doesn't make any sense. So, it's just, in my opinion, corruption. It's not doing right by the taxpayers, and it's flat out wrong. And I really hope that everyone sees this video can really put the pressure on who's ever going to sit on the council or stays there, or the new people that are elected in the special elections to either have her removed or do a recall vote or whatever. There's we want to address this stuff, but it's just not being addressed. So we're going to try to do things outside of the council on our own and go to meetings and make some noise and do social media, make some noise. I think we'll get more effective that way. But I'm sorry that to disappoint everyone out there from District 3 or District 5. I can speak for that. You put me there, but I couldn't get anything done because I was exposing things, and they're gonna sling them. Things got really rough, and I'm just not gonna tolerate it. So,
what happens now? What does the town charter say? Is there going to be a special election?
Yeah, they'll have a special election. So they'll have a special election for District 5 and District 3. I don't know the time frame. It is in the charter. I have to look at it again, but I think they have to do it within. I think they have 2 months, 3 months to get it going. I don't know. And I don't think if nobody runs, I'm not sure if they can appoint somebody or not. I know there's a certain time frame, and don't quote me though, but I think it's 9 or 6 months before an election that you can appoint somebody. But if it's in a certain time frame out, like right now, they need to have a special election. They can't appoint somebody. So We'll see who steps up.
Right. Well, we don't usually see people doing things for the right thing, and that's unfair because lots of people, a lot of good people in government. But the conditions under which they have to operate are just simply not feasible at times.
And this is why a lot of people don't run for public office, because of this the crap you got to go through.
Right.
I mean, I'm willing to sit down with anybody and have a discussion. I put out numerously times with the town manager. I made it known to Hillary Lima I would gladly sit down and have a one-on-one conversation. It just never was done. What it was happening was I was always getting a third party that would reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to sit down with Hillary Lima or some other people. And I said, no, we're adults. If she wants to sit down with me, then you can call or text me and we'll do it that way. I'm not going through a third party. We're adults here. So, and I stated in town council meetings, I stated in emails, I'm willing to sit down with anybody, and that's to everybody in the town council that was there, and no one ever took it up. So,
have any of the other city council people or other folks in Coventry government or at state government level reached out to you about this yet?
No, I have not heard from anybody from the town council at all. I did have a few state reps reach out to me. I had 2 senators reach out to me, and we talked and kind of went over things. And they all said selfishly, we want to see you stay and fight, but they know after the this, the police interaction there, the call.
Yeah,
that was
that's
made.
the term is the boomer term is a bridge too far. It strikes me that if you're willing to make false allegations to the police, and I wonder, I have to ask, will there be any ramifications for them filing a false police report, or?
Well, I don't know. So I can't say for sure who called, because I put in a public records request to find out the information of who made the call first, and then I know who made the accusation and how the chain happened, but I don't know who called. So I can't say on the record here who called. I have a hunch, and it wasn't Hillary Lima and it wasn't Viducci, but I know that Viducci did give a statement to the police, and then I emailed my statement with my lawyer.
Right.
So once I get the public information I'm requesting from the police, I'll make a determination how to go forward with that. I just think that the solicitor really overstepped his boundaries by even getting involved in it. If he did get involved in it, he definitely overstepped his boundaries. So more to come on that. But,
and to be clear, you've had conversations with the town manager, but you employ a town manager model in this. So really, the town council is the elected body that effectively manages the community.
Yeah. That was another change that happened too. Prior to 2022 and 2023, they fired was it 2022? Yeah. They fired the old solicitor, and they changed it in the charter. It was a question that went to the voters, that the town solicitor, instead of answering to the town manager, would answer to the town council, not the town manager. Mm-hmm. So that changed back in 2023, 2024
right.
during that vote.
That same town council that you're part of, that they refused to allow you. Listen, we're going to put the word out. If anyone else from Coventry town government wants to respond or, deliver, if you will, their version, we're happy to entertain that. But this is not really a he said, she said situation. You either put the damn stuff on the agenda or you don't.
Yeah, either you get to put the stuff on the agenda like the rules say, for transparency for voters to see, and unredacted invoices for your town council to look at to see what the billing is going on, and discuss in the back room of certain questions, not for the public to know, but for town council people to know, so that you can give an answer to your constituents who put you in there that would like an answer. Now, if I got the invoices, obviously I'm not going to release all the information that's on there, because some of it is private and it needs to stay private. But at least I'd have an idea of what I could talk to somebody about and what I couldn't. And I don't understand why that was such a big deal. I think if the solicitor would just got up at the podium and said, you know what, I got your request, absolutely, I'll send those to you, not a problem, we wouldn't be in this situation right now.
Right.
But as I took my pickaxe and started picking away and searching around and asking questions, and so did Jamie LeBlanc, well, it really, you saw what happened. Nasty fights at the town council meetings, accusations with law enforcement, so this is why people, and this is what, when people see this stuff, this is what happens. People get, good people don't want to run for office, and then you get bad people who run, who don't know government, who don't know financing, who do things for their own self-interest and not the town's interest. You end up in a world of hurt. So,
right. And you can find yourself very quickly in the legal jackpot. Fortunately, cooler heads at the Coventry Police Department prevailed. From my experience with the Coventry Police Department, they have always operated in a highly professional manner, and it's not surprising that they operated in a highly professional manner with this. They're not just going out there willy-nilly arresting folks based on political whims. I will tell you that there are cases in police departments in Rhode Island that do that. And you could have easily found yourself having the have you ever been arrested moment and embarrassed in front of the entire state if it wasn't for their professionalism. And the notion that someone would use law enforcement as a political tool is despicable and cowardly. Mm-hmm. And displays a level of cowardice, unprofessionalism, and just complete failure of ethics that, even by Rhode Island standards, is kind of hard to top, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping that I can get the information from the police department. I haven't heard anything from them since last week, but I was told it wasn't going to go anywhere because it's just hearsay in the political BS world. So I'm happy. I'm hoping it stays that way. But it's just crazy that that has happened. And people wanted me to stay and fight, but like if people are gonna accuse me or come up with that kind of stuff, then and Mr. Jamie LeBlanc is not at a town council meeting anymore. Who do I walk in with? Who do I walk out with?
Right.
I'm worried now if I were to leave a meeting and someone says, "Oh, my car was damaged. Scott Copley was the last one to walk in here." How do they? Then I could be accused of keying someone's car or, saying something to them on the way in or way out of a meeting. Especially after a meeting when things get heated in the front room or the back room with disagreements. Or hey, he followed me home and shined his high beams at me the whole time. You never know what people are going to say. When they're vindictive, and they come up with crazy stuff. So I'm not going to risk any of that stuff. I don't want any part of that,
Well, and what's equally unfortunate is that the other members of your town council didn't rise to your defense immediately. I've known you for a while. It would be highly uncharacteristic for you to engage in this behavior, even in a moment of anger. But well, it's disappointing and depressing that, again, politics has to dive to this low level simply based on personal vendetta. So, listen, I think everyone's disappointed that you resigned. I would say that any adult will understand why you did. Ultimately, your responsibility first to you and your family, and to your life. And there's simply no job that's so important as for you to put that at risk. And you're a dad. You own businesses. You work hard. You're entitled to a modicum of respect and the ability to operate in dignity. And when that's taken away, people need to be held accountable. And I would argue that based on the hearing of the facts as they stand right now, it's clear that your city solicitor for the town of Coventry, there's a saying from the movie The Blind Side. When Michael Orr blocks the young man out of the stadium, and the coach says, "Michael, what were you thinking?" And I believe, based on other things that I've encountered, it's time for your city solicitor to go home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, I wanted his contract changed. I wanted language taken out, language added in. Nobody would do it. I mean, if you watch the March 11th meeting, I had so many people call me that were in the legal field, other solicitors, people who are elected officials in other towns, state elected officials, basically said he should be fired for insubordination for what he did to you guys, right, the way he talked. And he thinks, in my opinion, that we all work for him, and we don't. He works for us. He works for the council, and he works for the taxpayers. And clearly, that's not happening out there. And so I want that to be well known in the town of Coventry, that you have a solicitor just kind of doing what he wants to do out there, and in my opinion, and things are not looking good. So when you have things, and it's not like I'm just shooting off the hip. I have all factual stuff. I have the 1099s. I have the budgets from the town manager. I have court documents that I have. I have charter stuff here with emails. I have I posted the email that that I had that I sent to him that he said was inappropriate. I printed out different laws which his contract violates and stuff, and gone over it with other legal. I'm not an attorney, but I consult with attorneys who know what they're talking about, and they legally guide me of what to look at, what to say, so I'm not wrong. I don't look like a fool. So that's what I do. I do my homework, and there's just so much like in this, in his contract it talks about payments, responsibility for payments, and how it, town council is collectively his client. He talks about the client in his contract. I'm the client, but when it comes to billing, I'm not his client. When it comes to questioning his legal stuff, I'm not his client. He won't answer it. There's all sorts of stuff that I've done research, and I have it all. If people want to see it or ask me, get in touch with me to ask questions, I'll happily answer them. But it's just it's sad because I really think this puts more of a black eye on Coventry and the politics there. And my big concern is that in 2026, when the rest of the people, everybody on that town council is up for election, we're not going to get well-qualified people to run because they don't want to deal with the BS. But I think if you can get a good group of people together and run as a group to do the right thing with educational backgrounds and finance and stuff like that, you'll get the town in the right direction. We just have to find that group of people that want to do it. And I'm willing to help anybody out. If in 2026 would I ever run again? I don't know. I have to see who else is running. But right now, I don't want to repeat myself. I think I can do more help and bring things to light off the council than I can on the council.
Let me ask you one question before we sign off for the night. If in fact there was resolution at the solicitor level of some type, he were to leave, based in disgrace, frankly, would you rerun?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he's there. Unless the town council that is there now with the new people that get on, somehow if things came up that he has, would they fire him or not? Because he has supposedly a super majority in his contract, which is against state law. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But if I was to ever run again and get on with Jamie and some other people, I can assure you he would not be the solicitor. We would bring in somebody that would not want to be the 8th council member or the unelected mayor, so to say. We'd find, and there's plenty of them out there that just want to sit at the meeting, don't talk. When there's a legal question that comes up, we ask you, and we want your legal opinion. And when I ask for a legal opinion, I want the options. Okay, I want to know what my option A is, what my option B is, or is an option C, and what does each one cost, and what is the legal ramifications of those options. And right now, if you watch these town council meetings with Solicitor Angel, he only gives one option. It's his way, and if you question it, he gets all mad, he gets all flustered, he gets all red in the face, like he's gonna have a stroke and drop dead. And if that ever happened, you have 2 firemen right on the town council that could go save his life. But watch the March 11th meeting. He turns so red and mad when you question him. It's just unprofessional.
Well, again, thank you for spending time with us tonight. I know this is probably an emotional night for you. Folks,
thank you for having me.
Well, of course. Now, folks don't understand at times how hard you have to work to get elected. And the excitement and the joy and the sense of opportunity that goes in, and ultimately that only magnifies the disappointment when you see how thoroughly failed certain portions of our alleged democracy in Rhode Island actually are, and the frustration of not having been able to change things when you were elected on an arc that demanded change by a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds who find themselves living in a community where there are elected leaders and some self-appointed ones who quite frankly are bullies. and will do virtually anything at any level to get what they want. And seeing that, it's heartbreaking because you hope things are going to get better, but they're not. So, we wish you nothing but the best. We look forward to following up with you in the coming days. If your associate on the council is also resigned, I know he had a commitment tonight. If you'd like to talk on the record, we'll have the same conversation, his style. And I'll just say this, we invite any other member of the city council, including the city solicitor, to come out with his version and explain what appears to, at this moment, be the inexplicable, which is why you would essentially hijack the administration processes of a city council for apparently your own personal power. And you don't get to do that. So this story has got a way to go.
Oh yeah, I will on your show or any other one, I will gladly sit down and discuss anything with any of the city town council members or anybody that was. Jamie wants to come on with me here again, but anybody that's on the city council right now, or the solicitor, to come on your show and discuss things, I would happily like to do that. I would happily do that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We're going to sign off tonight. We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition News Network. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_, and of course the newish, still being worked on, kind of in process, but it works, website at coalitionnews.com. We'll see you soon.